Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining me here at Miracle Mindedness. And as you already know, I'm going through the text for A Course in Miracles, COA edition, and kind of unpacking it as we go. And in the last episode, I remember mentioning how Judgment Day was going to be addressed in the future. Came up in the conversation last time. I didn't scroll ahead, so I didn't realize how soon it was coming. It's actually today's lesson. Think about today's lesson as clarification of the term the last judgment from an authority who knows actually what that truly means, because we have got a really distorted understanding of that, which we could say is apocalyptic. So I'm going to go right into the lesson here. The name of it is The Real Meaning of the Last Judgment. We have said that whatever you make or create is real in your own eyes, but not necessarily in the sight of God. See text 2:11-22. This basic distinction leads us directly into the real meaning of the Last Judgment. The final judgment is one of the greatest threat concepts in humanity's perception. This is only because you do not understand it. Judgment is not an essential attribute of God. You brought judgment into being only because of the separation. God himself is still the God of mercy. After the separation, however, there was a place for justice in the schema, because it was one of the many learning devices which had to be built into the overall plan. Just as the separation occurred over many millions of years, the Last Judgment will extend over a similarly long period, and perhaps even longer. Its length depends, however, on the effectiveness of the present speed up. Okay, so this is another reference to the celestial speed up, which he referred to in one of the miracle principles, which I did not go over, in which certain people are being called into physical incarnation to help counteract the world going backwards spiritually. And I would say with this latest generation, what we call Generation Z, there are sure signs that watching YouTube and all of the young people who are already get it, um, these spiritual concepts, it's pretty clear that this is actually taking place right now. We are in a celestial speed up right now, according to me, anyways. We have frequently noted that the miracle is a device for shortening but not abolishing time. We said before that the miracle abolishes time. It does this by a process of collapsing it. It thus abolishes certain intervals within it. It does this, however, within the larger temporal sequence. So, in other words, out of pattern experiences, this situation playing out completely different than it has played out in the past. That's what he's talking about, with the collapsing of time, is we're not making the present like the past anymore. We're not saying our lines the way we've said them before, and we're surprising people by the way that we're showing up differently. That's not what they're expecting. If a sufficient number of people become truly miracle-minded quickly, the shortening process can be almost immeasurable, but it is essential that these individuals free themselves from fear sooner than would ordinarily be the case, because they must emerge from the basic conflict if they are to bring peace to the minds of others. So this whole paragraph reminds me of the 100th monkey, in terms of there being a tipping point. I don't know if you guys, if I've brought in to the dialogue the 100th monkey experiment, which was essentially 70 years ago, I think. And I don't think the 100th monkey is, I think they just said the 100th monkey because that was a nice round number. But they put There were a bunch of monkeys living on a beach, and they were feeding the monkeys fruit. The researchers were, but they were throwing the fruit into the sand. One day, one monkey got this bright idea to take the fruit and go wash it in the ocean to get all the sand off of it and have a nicer meal. And he was doing this, or she, for a while, and probably through social learning, a few of the monkeys around them saw this and started to get the idea that this might be a better way to deal with their lunch. And then there was a tipping point, which a hundredth is probably not the actual monkey, but it was some number of monkey figuring it out that there was this tipping point into suddenly all the monkeys were washing their fruit. So there was a slow buildup of monkeys figuring this out one at a time, and then there was a tipping point. It makes me think about Malcolm Gladwell and his books on the tipping point, where the tipping point idea makes sense if you accept the concept that we all share one mind, and it's just like eventually the election goes the other way. Everybody's been voting for this party for so long, and then suddenly it tips over into electing the other party. The Last Judgment is generally thought of as a procedure undertaken by God. Actually, it will be undertaken solely by the Sonship with my help. That is us. It is a final healing rather than a meting out of punishment, however much you may think punishment is deserved. Punishment as a concept is in total opposition to right-mindedness. The aim of the final judgment is to restore right-mindedness to you. The final judgment might be called a process of right evaluation. It simply means that finally all minds must come to understand what is worthy and what is not. After this, their ability to choose can be reasoned directly. Unless this distinction has been made, the vacillations between free and imprisoned will cannot but continue. So the process of evaluation is basically evaluating what is valuable from what is valueless. And it happens to be that today's workbook lesson for May 13th is lesson 133, and it's called I will not value the valueless. And the valueless is, of course, all of these false idols. Just use money as I think right now in the world as it is today, money is probably the greatest false idol of all because we we deceive ourselves into thinking that hoarding a lot of money away is giving us some sense of safety and security into the future, when really it's like the whole money thing is just a great big Ponzi scheme. There's absolutely nothing of value in these little strips of paper. I won't read I could search for a passage in the course where he gets at just like how absurd this idea is that we put so much value on these little pieces of paper with a picture of a president, a former president on it, and say that this is valuable. It's only valuable to us because we have all accepted its value. And he's asking us to see through that because there's really no promise of eternal safety and security in that idol or in any other idol, whether it be the perfect relationship or the perfect career or the perfect anything. And today's lesson 133 gets into why it's not really valuable is because of the guilt that comes with it. And we're not usually very cognizant of the guilt because the unwatched mind just projects the guilt out onto other people. Basically, all the rich people are assholes. That's guilt. If we accept the idea that there is only one mind, guilt projected outwards onto other people is the same as guilt felt inward. Okay, it's the same thing. Guilt is guilt. It just depends on what we do with it. The first step toward freedom then must entail a sorting out of the false from the true. This is a process of division only in the constructive sense and reflects the true meaning of the apocalypse. This refers to the book of Revelation, also called the Apocalypse of John. In other words, it's a process of God evaluating people, throwing those who don't measure up into the lake of fire, and preserving only the elect, is really one of us evaluating our thoughts and acts, throwing our miscreations away and preserving only the good. Everyone will ultimately look upon what he has made and will to preserve only what is good, just as God himself once looked upon what he had created and knew that it was good. In Genesis, and God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. At this point, the mind will begin to look with love on what it has made because of its great worthiness. The mind will inevitably disown its miscreations, and having withdrawn belief from them, they will no longer exist. The term last judgment is frightening not only because it has been falsely projected onto God, but also because of the association of last with death. This is an outstanding example of upside-down perception. Actually, if the Last Judgment is examined objectively, it is quite apparent that it is really the doorway to life. No one who lives in fear is really alive. So our life is eternal. We are eternally alive. Death does not exist. And so we are really, by trying to obtain things in a world that doesn't actually exist, that there's nothing really here, we're basically running away from life by making this election again and again and again to find value in the things of this world, the material objects. And we're deceiving ourselves. Your own final judgment cannot be directed toward yourself because you are not your own creation. So we're a thought in the mind of God. And then everything that we consider the world, go back to Donald Hoffman's virtual reality headset, which I've used before, that we're all basically walking around in our own personal virtual reality headset. And that's the world that we think we share with everybody else. But that world was just a projection of our minds. Okay. So every figure in that virtual reality headset is our creation, which means like the image of our brother or of our sister or of our aunt or of our father or our kid. It's our image of that person. It's not that person. Okay? Those are our creations. We're not seeing anybody as they truly are, in a sense, because what they truly are is this brilliant shaft of light that we just can't see because we're distracted by the body, which is again a part of this temporal dream that we're in. So we're not really seeing them for who they are, but he's asking us in this lesson to look past our false image of them and see who they truly are. You can apply it meaningfully and at any time, however, to everything you have ever made, and retain in your real memory only what is good. This is what your own right-mindedness cannot but dictate. The purpose of time is solely to give you time to achieve this judgment. It is your own perfect judgment of what you have made. When everything that you retain is lovable, there is no reason for any fear to remain in you. This is your part in the atonement. So I think what he's saying is essentially the atonement process is the same as the Last Judgment, and it's not a judgment day. In the literal sense, it's a day that will take as long as it takes for all of us to finally accept the truth of who we are, which is that we never really entered into this world of separation. We are still in heaven with God for eternity in safety and holiness and innocence. Period. End of story. That's Judgment Day, or that is the last judgment. But we have to, one one important discernment to make again is how the feelings are being registered. If we're registering a feeling of guilt, then we know that we're selecting wrong. Okay. And that can also be looked at from the other side of the coin, in that if we are sort of trying to make somebody else feel guilty, then we're just entering into that same falsity. Okay. And we have to be really like radically self-honest with ourselves. Am I saying this thing right now to this other person out of a temptation to hopefully make them feel guilty? Um, and if so, we should not discern any gap between that and us ourselves feeling guilty. Because again, if we go back to the simple premise that we're all one mind, then it's all the same thing. Okay? Anybody feeling guilty is me feeling guilty, or wanting anybody else to feel guilty is me wanting to be guilty and be separate from everything. So the rules for decision, which comes at the very end of the text, chapter 30, is getting at the real clear, simple, what's the word, choice between guilt and innocence. And it's shared guilt and innocence. We can't start sorting through the guilty and the innocent, which we do if we're honest with ourselves. We have to really allow for the truth that the only true innocence is a shared innocence, and it's not shared with any exceptions. It's everyone. It's your worst enemy is included in it. All right. So I hope that that was helpful. And if you guys are appreciating these lessons, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you feel like contributing at all financially to this ministry, there is a little place in there where you can buy me a cup of coffee, so to speak. All right. I probably will put it into coffee. Have a wonderful day, everybody, filled with blessings and miracles. And I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.